We're going to our next guest now who joins us on the telephone this morning. It is Bec Thomas MLC. Good morning, Bec.
Good morning.
I saw you at the Jack Jumpers last night. Can you break it down for us, please? What did you think? New look team, of course. What did you make of it all?
Yeah, new look team, pretty good effort. I mean, it was a cracking start, and it looked really good, to start. And I thought, yeah, we're going to get this win. And, exciting close game, disappointing result. But look, there's plenty of games to come.
There is plenty of games to come. No need to panic just yet. Hey, big week for the stadium, of course, and got you on to have a chat about that this morning. What did you make of the TPC's final report on Macquarie Point Stadium?
Well, look, Brent, I think it's not surprising, the outcome, given what we've seen in the draft integrated assessment report, and I'm still taking time to work through it. There's been a lot of other things going on this week as well, and I'm busy preparing for Parliament next week and the bills that we'll have before us next week. So I'll take my time to properly digest the information in there, and importantly, going forward, the order that the government puts to the Parliament. As I've repeatedly said to you and others on talking about the stadium, I pride myself on making informed decisions, and we again, I feel like this is back to the future here, because I think last time I came on your show, I said at the time of talking, we didn't have the enabling legislation before us. Just like at that time now, we don't have the order before us to actually see what the order's going to look like, what the conditions might include, what the motion might include, if anything, beyond the order. So I'm keen to hopefully liaise with the government in the coming weeks on what that might look like. I really hope they'll take a consultative approach and work with members of Parliament on what's included in that before actually tabling it, so that we can, contribute to what it might look like before it comes to us.
Just got a bit of a bad line, Bec. I don't know if you can move to your left and move to your right and do a little dance on the spot and see if it improves or not, but I'll throw to Lynchy for the next question.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Bec. And I know you're going to take, obviously, some time to consider in detail the report. Do you feel, though, on the initial read that a true economic and social impact of a stadium and a football club been taken into consideration with this report?
In relation to the social and economic benefits, I think that's something that's really hard to quantify, which is why we see so much variance in the reports that come through on it, and so many different opinions. And in some ways, it is based on assumption, and we won't actually know for certain what those social and economic benefits will be. It would be a bit of a gamble, and that's the sort of thing I've got to weigh up and really consider in my decision making.
With, I suppose, at a different level, but still enormous impact. How do you look back over the last, say, 5 years of the Jack Jumpers and their presence in the state, and what's that done? What sort of social impact that's made?
Look, I'm a huge fan of the Jack Jumpers, and I'm really grateful for what they've brought to Tasmania. They've brought Tasmanians together, united in a Tasmanian NBL team, and that's fantastic. And it's really sad that we haven't been able to have the same, unity on the fantastic evolution of an AFL team because of the division that's been caused by this issue of requiring a stadium as part of the AFL deal. I think one of the things that I have been talking a lot about and will continue to is the investment the government makes in community sport, and that my support for government investing in high-performance sporting infrastructure and propping up essentially what are commercial businesses in professional sports is contingent on it also adequately funding community sport, and that means community sporting infrastructure, having enough facilities for kids to play so that no one misses out, and also sport development as well. And whilst yes, the Jack Jumpers have been fantastic, we've seen a huge boom in participation off the back of the Jack Jumpers. We don't have enough courts for kids to play, and I don't want Hobart to be a place where kids can watch sport but can't play it.
Bec, you're a super smart person, so I'm sure you know this, but we need this stadium for the team to survive. I'm sure you understand that. So do you get frustrated too, like we do, when we see people say, yes, team, no stadium? Because at the end of the day, this this footy club won't survive without the new stadium.
You know, not all internet providers are built equal.
Some don't run enough lines to the internet, so when things get busy, speeds can run dry.
But on Aussie Broadband's purpose-built network, they plan for demand and make sure there's enough fast-flowing internet for everyone.
That means you can stream, search, shop and click online knowing they've planned for all of it.
Switch to Aussie Broadband and experience the difference the actual Aussie way.
Australian avocados are delicious and nutritious. They're nature's overachievers. They can do the impossible. Creamy antioxidants, velvety potassium, buttery folate, half tasty, half healthy, brilliant! But if they can do all that, what can you do? Make avotoast for breakfast? Become a food blogger? Win a TV cooking show? Become a Michelin star chef? That's right, the world is your avocado. Australian avocados.
Avo can do, so can you.
Yeah, I get that, Brent, but, I think we live in a democracy. Everyone's entitled to their view, and what I really hope for going forward through this is that we see respectful debate and that, it doesn't divide families and friends, because I've heard of that happening to date. So whatever this looks like going forward, I hope that we'll be able to be respectful and listen to each other's views. We've seen catastrophic effects of in the US in the last couple of weeks of people not being able to speak out, and I'd hate for us to get to that point here. So what I really hope, and my message to people as we navigate this next couple of months going through this debate, is that let's just understand that we can all take different views, and that's okay. We don't have to agree with each other, but we have to be respectful.
I saw a really interesting article in the Herald Sun yesterday from Kevin Foley, who was the former South Australian Treasurer, and he said, how in the hell does a planning body have the ability to talk about financial and economic matters? He goes on to say a few other things. He said, I would be damned if any government I was in would allow an unelected appointed entity to stray out of its lane. Its lane is to tick boxes, not lecture governments and state populations. Is that a reasonable argument, do you think?
Well, I guess that comes back to what the actual project of state significance legislation allows. So, if the Parliament feels there is an issue with that, then maybe an amendment to that legislation is required. But we can't change that in this process now. The guidelines were the guidelines. There was consultation undertaken on what the guidelines look like, and the guidelines did include that the Planning Commission would make comment on social and economic benefits and factors. So, in their extensive investigation that was over a 12-month period, they collected evidence, they conducted hearings, as you know. If they're not experts in that themselves, and I'm not saying whether they are or not, but that their job was to gather evidence and analyse the facts. So that's really a matter for the TPC. But in terms of is it their role? That's the role that they had according to the guidelines, and the guidelines are constructed in line with what the project of state significance legislation requires. So that's the process that exists under the current legislation.
And Bec, I totally agree with you, and endorse what you're saying about respectful debate. It's something that is essential in all these situations. And now, understanding that the political climate in Tasmania has been, fair to say, probably unsettled in recent times, when do you feel that a decision may be made on the stadium?
Well, look, there's a lot to happen in Parliament, over the next couple of months. We've got a budget to consider as well, and we sit next week, but certainly the stadium debate won't be happening then. The government needs to take the time to develop the order and consult on it, as I said. So I don't expect that we'll be having this debate until November, December.
Yeah, prior to this report being published, and obviously that's a significant report, were you clear in your mind which way you were going to vote at this stage?
No, absolutely not. And I've been really clear about it all the way along, that I'm really open-minded, and that if I am making a decision with my heart, then every day of the week I'm saying yes to a stadium. I appreciate that it can bring economic and social benefits. I appreciate there's a lot of people who really want to see development happen in Tasmania, and we deserve to have the infrastructure and the opportunities that other states have. We're no longer the poor cousin of the mainland. So if I'm making a decision with my heart, absolutely I say yes, I want a team, I want a stadium, but I'm elected to make decisions also with my head. So, both of those things come into my decision making, and I need to have all the facts in front of me. I pride myself on making informed decisions. As I say, we don't have an order in front of us yet even to consider. So once I have that order and I'm able to scrutinise it and ask questions of the government, I've requested a briefing on the operating model and the asset management plan, because that's something I learned a lot about in local government, the importance of having a sound asset management plan and looking at the life cycle cost of the asset. All we hear talked about is the capital cost, what it's going to cost to build it, but what's it going to cost Tasmanian taxpayers ongoing to operate it? Stadium Tasmania suggested in the evidence in the hearings to the TPC that it would make operating profit of 1 to 2 million a year, but that doesn't take into account operating costs of maintenance and depreciation. Life cycle costs, of maintenance and depreciation. So what does that look like? How is the asset going to be cash backed so that when it's at the end of its useful life, it can be replaced? All of those things need to be weighed up in developing such a significant asset.
I completely get all that, Bec. It's so important, all the facts and figures, but what sort of price can you also put on the dreams and aspirations of kids of Tasmania? You've seen it firsthand. You mentioned it before at the Jack Jumpers last night. We've seen what